finish him off, but Barrett activates his trap card, causing a huge explosion from one of the marks. Getsuku's wand is destroyed, and Barrett mentions he never said anything about stepping on the marks, revealing that his spell was actually a time bomb. He activates his remaining marks, and Getsuku can't believe he lost to someone like him. The marks go off and cause a huge explosion. Finn congratulates him, and Barrett is excited to face another opponent. But Getsuku poses even though he is defeated, and the group suddenly starts sinking into the ground. Mash tries to save his cream puff, and they all get sucked into the ground. They land on the floor below, and it seems they are all split up. Lance suddenly feels an overwhelming energy, and he is confronted by Mashle, the third fangs of the Magia Lupus. Barrett and Finn land together, and they come across Milo and Love, the fourth and fifth fangs. And Finn thinks they are doomed, but Barrett tells him not to give up, thinking he has the power of the main character. Meanwhile, Mash lands in a dark room, wondering where his friends are. The room lights up, and he is greeted by the masked man, who introduces himself as Razor, the second fangs of the Magia Lupus. He compliments Mash on his movements from their last meeting, but he seems to have figured out that Mash can't use any magic, and Mash gets worried that someone has figured out his secret. We see Mashle as he explains how strength is everything in their world, and the weak are worthless. Lance isn't interested, and attacks using his gravity magic, but Mashle gets squished into mud, and seeps into the ground. Mashle reappears behind him with a number of clones, calling his gravity magic interesting, and they charge at him. Lance defends himself with his spell, squashing them back into mud, but Mashle tells him it's useless, as the mud starts to reform, attacking with a spike, which Lance barely avoids. Lance thinks he needs to attack the real body to stop the clones, so he decides to attack the whole field with his magic. But Mashle reappears behind him once again, catching him with his mud, and Mashle attacks with a barrage of hardened mud balls. Mashle thinks Lance is pretty skilled, but says his talent is being wasted, so he invites him to serve the Magia Lupus. Mashle explains that mages develop depending on their environment and the people around them. He calls everyone in the Adler dorm trash, and tells Lance he will only sink to their level by hanging around them. He boasts about the talent they have in the Magia Lupus, as well as having the best education, tools, and potions. But Lance scoffs, saying that his strength isn't reliant on his environment, calling Mashle inferior. Lance attacks with his magic, but this time, he sends Mashle into the wall. He explodes with mud, and it seems he has surrounded the room with mud to absorb any impacts. So against gravity magic, which relies on slamming opponents into the ground, Mashle thinks he can't lose. But Lance suddenly starts attacking with rocks instead, and he realizes Lance has worked out his trick. Mashle is forced out of hiding, and Lance claims that he must have a better environment since he is stronger. But Mashle tells him not to get cocky, as he takes out a potion of magical essence that was extracted from the other students. He drinks the potion, causing his power to surge, and he uses an advanced form of his magic known as Secondeth. He creates an enormous demon mud monster, and he goes on to explain that there are different tiers in magic. Secondeth magic can only be cast by double-liners, and only by the few that are worthy. Mashle thinks back to when he was a child, and his father and sister, who just wanted to be a singer and wanted to try her best, which helped him to realize that that is more important. Although he can't agree with the way Mashle thinks, he respects his efforts, and he leaves to go find his friends. Meanwhile, we see Mash as he worries that Razor knows his secret. Razor thinks they are similar, since they are both rejected by the world, but he says he has his own reasons for being there, so the two prepare to fight. Mash gets changed into his workout gear, charging with a kick that pushes Razor back, but Razor suddenly dashes right past him, cutting him in the process. Razor tells him he can't win, as we see his magic that boosts his speed. He dashes all around, landing multiple hits, and he says they are on different levels. Mash refuses to give up, and Razor thinks his dream to live peacefully with his family is disgusting, because they have similar circumstances, but Mash was lucky with the people around him. He tells Mash to show him what he can do, revealing that Lemon is being drained of her magic power, and after 30 minutes, she will have no magic, just like him. Mash swears he will beat him, and Razor goes all out with his magic, repeatedly slashing Mash as he dashes all around him. Mash can't even defend himself, and ends up getting stabbed in the stomach. Razor says he is too weak to save anyone, but his sword gets stuck as Mashle clenches his abs. This lets Mashle grab onto him, and he headbutts Razor in the face, breaking his mask and revealing his face. His eye is red, but Mashle thinks it's just bloodshot and asks if he is okay. Razor explains that his eye is known as the Evil Eye and has the power to disable anyone's magic. It's seen as a power from the devil, so he is seen as an outcast and rejected by the world. Mashle apologizes since the eye doesn't work on him, and Razor explains he is the natural enemy of all magicians, so they have all feared and despised him his entire life. Even his family feared him, and he thinks he should never have been born, but thinks Mashle wouldn't understand since he was blessed to have a loving father. He activates his second of magic, creating a field around them, and an arrow appears on Mashle's body. In an instant, Razor delivers another devastating attack, explaining that within the field, Mashle's speed is drained and transferred to himself, so he had no chance of winning. Mashle can only shield himself, and Razor tells him it's the end, but Mashle smashes the ground, splitting the floor, and he destroys Razor's sword. Razor realizes that by splitting the floor, his movements were limited. He thinks about pulling back, but Mashle steps on his foot, stopping him from running. Mashle activates his muscle magic, delivering a devastating smash that blows Razor right out of the field. His spell is broken, and Mashle chases him down, kicking him in the back. He gets thrown away, but thinks that if he loses, he will also lose his reason to live. So he tries to fight back, and the two clash, but Mashle catches his sword, smashing him into the wall, and Mashle proceeds to smash him around all over the place, finishing things off with a submission attack. As Razor lies on the ground, he wishes he was born normal. We learn his evil eye manifested when he was a child, and his parents locked him up in the basement so people wouldn't find out about him. But after some time, his parents even tried to kill him, and he came to the realization that he should never have been born. But he was given purpose by Abel. Even if he was being used as a tool, it gave him a reason to live, but now that he has failed, he thinks he is back to being unwanted. Mashle can see how lucky he is to have his father, and he offers to become Razor's friend. But Razor thinks it's impossible, saying it's only a matter of time before his feelings about him will change. But as thanks for his kindness, Razor warns him not to go ahead, saying Abel is on a completely different level, and he has no chance of winning. Mashle thanks him for the warning, but decides to keep going. He says that no matter what others think about him, his feelings won't change, and he invites him to have cream puffs together the next time they meet. Barrett and Finn are up against Milo and Love, but we see another student has found the secret door, and he prepares to head inside. Love sees they are both only single-liners, thinking they will be easy to deal with, and Milo decides to let her handle them herself, leaving to go and find Mashle instead. Love immediately asks if they like her, but Barrett and Finn find this strange, saying they don't even know her, so she starts asking if they think she is cute instead. Barrett can tell she is trying to be manipulative, but he thinks she is totally his type. However, he claims Lemon is already his fiancée, so he can't be with her, and Love immediately tells him to die. Barrett is shocked she changed so quickly, and Love attacks with her tornado magic. Barrett counters with a fireball, but he can tell there is a big difference in their power. Love claims that all women are queens, saying any guy who can't tell them they are cute and serve them don't deserve to live. Barrett thinks she is being too extreme, and Love asks them if they like her once again. Barrett tries to resist her, saying he already has Lemon, and Finn thinks it must be deja vu. Barrett gets hit by Love's tornado magic and gets blown away. Love claims her father told her she can kill anyone who doesn't cherish her, but Barrett gets back up, attacking with his fireballs. Love says his magic is too weak, but the fireballs land short, causing a smoke screen instead. Barrett lunges for her wand, but Love blows him away, knocking him down. Love reveals that Milo's power is to turn a specific target to stone. The target is the one who opened the door, so Mashle will be turned to stone if they don't defeat her and stop Milo within 30 minutes. Love traps Barrett in a tornado cage, telling him it will be impossible for him to escape. Barrett struggles inside it, and Love feels bad for Mashle, because his friends are so weak, and she calls him a fool for trying to go up against Abel. Barrett feels like he is about to die, thinking there is nothing he can do, but he has a flashback to when he was a child, where some other kids are picking on him, trading him with their old broom. But there is suddenly an explosion as his sister stands up for him. She tells him he should fight back, but he thinks that would only make things worse. She thinks he gives up too easily, saying it will be a problem when he gets a real friend, someone who will stand up for him no matter what, so he must fight to hold on to people like that. He thinks about how Mash stood up for him, and he refuses to let Love mock his friend. As Love goes to finish Finn off, Barrett breaks free from her tornado cage. Love is shocked he broke her spell. She attacks with her tornado, but Barrett easily cancels it out. She wonders how his power has suddenly increased, and she notices the mark on his head, recognizing it as the warding cross, which some children are born with and are considered battle demons who can unleash their magic power when their emotions cross a certain point. Barrett says it's a crime to insult his friends, as he creates countless fireballs around the arena. Love panics, and Barrett claims he is the main character as he attacks with his fireballs. There is a huge explosion, but when the smoke clears, it seems he intentionally missed, and he says he doesn't like hurting girls, so he tells her to just leave. Love thanks him for his mercy, and Finn is amazed he defeated her all by himself. He compliments Barrett, but a stone head suddenly appears behind him, and Barrett pushes him out of the way, blocking the attack. Milo returns, wondering what's going on, and Love apologizes for losing. Barrett is glad Milo gave up on trying to turn Mash to stone, but Milo prepares to crush them, summoning a number of stone hands to attack. Barrett thinks he is about to collapse, and Love calls Milo a prodigy, because he is the only first year in the Magia Lupus, so she thinks they have no chance. The hands are about to reach them, but Milo is suddenly stabbed by a sword and blown away. Finn recognizes the sword, and Milo wonders what happened. He becomes shocked, realizing he's up against the previous year's divine visionary, Rain. We learn he is the ace of the Alder dorm, and he is also Finn's older brother. Milo tries to regain his composure, thinking he is just a student. He attacks with his stone head, but Rain easily splits it in half. Rain summons countless swords, showing his overwhelming power, and he attacks Milo with all his swords. Barrett is amazed by the power of a divine visionary, and Love immediately decides to defect from the Lang dorm. As the dust clears, Milo realizes he stands no chance, so he starts begging for his life, saying he was forced into being bad and he regrets his actions. But Rain kicks him, saying that actions speak louder than words, and he doesn't believe him as he keeps on stomping on him to teach him a lesson. Barrett is shocked by how brutal he is, wondering if they are really on the same side. Rain tells them to get out, saying he will handle the rest, and Love quickly runs away. After his interrogation, Rain heads deeper into the dungeon, and we learn that he was sent by Headmaster Wahlberg because they had a lead on Innocent Zero, and his pawns should be in the area. He thinks they could be hiding their magic power, but he suddenly runs into Mash, who is eating a cream puff, and Rain finds he has a strange aura. He thinks Mash could be one of the pawns, so he summons a spider which can measure his magic power to see if he is really a student. Rain attacks with his sword, but Mash easily catches it, wondering what's going on. The spider detects he has zero magic, and it thinks it must be a bug, so Rain attacks again, this time with 3% of his power. The attack lands on Mash, but he ends up turning the swords into a chair. The spider still detects zero magic, but Rain decides to test him one more time. He attacks with 10% of his power, and the spider thinks Mash stands no chance, but Mash practices his swing, and he takes the bunting stance. He is able to bunt all of the swords, and they all fall to the ground. Rain asks for his name, and when Mash tells him, Rain remembers Wahlberg telling him about a new student who is quite unique. Rain apologizes for attacking him, but Mash doesn't accept it. Rain feels bad, so he gives Mash a magic handkerchief that has the power to heal his wounds, and Mash thinks he must like rabbits, but he thanks Rain for the item. Rain goes on to warn him about Abel, and Mash wonders how he knows. Rain reveals that Wahlberg told him about his goal to become the next divine visionary, so it's natural for him to be up against Abel, who currently holds the most coins. Rain supports his goal to become a divine visionary, wanting more allies that are strong. He warns Mash about Abel's doll magic, saying he might struggle against him because he has no magic, but Mash insists that he does. Rain wishes him luck, saying he has other things to do, and Mash thanks him for his help, but Rain claims he did everything for his own sake. We see Wahlberg telling him about how Mash puts his friends above himself, and how he even saved his brother, so Rain is rooting for him to achieve his goal. Mash finds the final room, wondering if the door is a push or a pull. He guesses correctly, but he thinks about Lemon and ends up blowing the door open. Abel wonders if he has something against doors, and Mash says he was just trying to knock. Abel is surprised he was able to defeat Razor, thinking Rain should be the only student that could stand up against Razor's evil eye, so Abel thinks he could be on the same level as a divine visionary, but Mash just worries Abel has worked out his secret. However, he becomes relieved when Abel just thinks he is strong, as he refers to him as a fellow superior being, reminding Mash of his plan to get rid of those who are inferior. He thinks the weak have been taking advantage of their kindness, gaining more rights, and making them weaker overall, so he wants to get rid of them all. Mash wonders if he means those who can't use magic, and Abel says they need to be disposed of, because just segregating them from society is not enough. Abel also includes underachievers, and people who shelter the weak on his list, but Mash thinks back to how Burnedead took him in. He does a double backflip even as a kid, and Burnedead gives him a taste of his first cream puff. He thinks about Burnedead telling him how proud he is to have him as his son, and Mash realizes he can't be friends with Abel. Abel says he just doesn't understand, calling him dense, so he decides Mash's inferior genes need to be eliminated, as he sends his puppets to attack. We see Love as she goes to find Abel. She is relieved she managed to get away from Rain, but she finds the door to Abel's room broken, and she is shocked seeing Mash fighting against Abel. Mash crushes one of the puppets, but acid suddenly spills out from it, and Abel tells him he should be more careful. However, Mash grabs onto the head of the puppet he destroyed. Love wonders what Mash can do against the acid puppets, but Mash throws the head, and ends up bowling over all the acid puppets in a single strike. Love can't believe what she just witnessed, and Mash wonders if Abel would consider himself inferior if he loses. He also wonders what Abel has done with Lemon, but Abel claims he doesn't know who he is talking about, as he summons his stronger puppets. He thinks Mash doesn't stand a chance, but the puppets get sent flying, and Abel realizes Mash has gotten even stronger since their last meeting. Mash demands that if he wins, Abel must let Lemon go. Abel is impressed Mash isn't just all talk, but he uses the strongest puppet, Mash himself, as Mash starts to beat himself up. He can't control himself, and we see strings attached to his body. He starts choking himself out, but the string suddenly breaks, as Abel apologizes for using such a crude technique, saying it was too one-sided. Instead, he brings out Finn, who he managed to capture and turn into a puppet. He notes he also captured Barrett, but he was too injured to be useful, so Finn will serve as the entertainment. He sends Finn to attack, but Mash blocks the attack. However, Abel warns him he is not allowed to block, or else he will tear Finn to pieces. Mash starts getting beaten up, and Abel suggests he has the choice to take Finn out himself, saying that people always want to believe they are good, but that's not their true nature. Mash continues taking the hits, and Finn's axe ends up breaking, but Mash is still unfazed. He takes out his gold coin, and Abel wonders if he is finally ready to hand it over. Mash flicks it at him, but it actually cuts the strings controlling Finn, and Finn starts to transform back into a human. The coin returns to Mash, and he claims that the coin must just like him better. Abel uses his technique to control Mash once again, deciding that he is done messing around. Mash tries to resist, but Abel calls it useless, saying it's impossible for a human to resist his power. Mash says he will make him regret messing with his friends, as he is able to take a step, breaking one of Abel's fingers. Mash gets into position, as Abel struggles to hold him back, as Mash breaks free, and smashes him in the face. However, Abel activates his skill, and Mash starts to turn into a puppet. Abel is impressed Mash managed to make him use this spell, but Mash is completely transformed into a puppet, and he says it's all over. Abel goes to take Mash's coin, but it turns out to just be a cream puff, and Abel is confused. He suddenly gets punched, and Mash returns to being a human, glad that his cream puff is okay. Abel wonders how Mash was able to move as a puppet, because his puppet magic blocks the electric signals from the brain, so he shouldn't be able to move. But he realizes it must have been a spinal reflex. Just like pulling back after touching something hot, or moving your foot when your knee gets tapped, there are some actions that bypass the brain to respond quickly to external threats. So taking Mash's cream puff was the trigger for the reflex, and Love thinks it's ridiculous the cream puff was so important to him. Abel acknowledges Mash, so he decides to use the power he gained from extracting the magic from the other students. He activates his second of magic, summoning a giant puppet, and he reveals it has the ability to turn anyone within a 100-meter radius into a puppet. He explains the puppet will create invisible strings that will transform his body on contact, and Love worries she is also in range of the attack. Abel says it's impossible to counter his attack, and once he has become a puppet, he will be toyed with until he can never recover. The strings descend, covering the entire area, and Abel says Mash should be happy he made him use his ultimate skill, but his doll is somehow destroyed, and Mash is revealed to be fine. Abel wonders how he is still human, and Mash says he just tore the strings. Abel thinks it should be impossible, since the strings are invisible when they descend, so a normal person should not be able to stop them. Love is shocked by what actually happened, and we see Mash shifted his body in a particular way so that the strings touched him at different times, so the moment he felt the string on his left side, he instantly tore them when he still had control of his right hand. Love can't believe his insane strategy, and Abel wonders if Mash is even human. He tries attacking with his puppet, but Mash completely shatters it, and he appears behind Abel. Mash grabs onto him, jumping up into the air, and he smashes Abel into the ground. In a flashback, we learn about Abel's mother. She was a kind and compassionate person, and although she was a noble, she treated the commoners just as equally, saying that it was only by chance that they were born privileged. But one day she was stabbed. She was distributing food to the poor as she would always do, but one of them got greedy, wanting all the food for himself, and he ended up stabbing her when she resisted. Despite believing in the goodness of humanity, she was taken away, so Abel started to believe that the weak needed to be purged. He gathered the most talented people to join him, people who also weren't satisfied with the way things are in the world. He refuses to change his mind, saying it's natural for the strong to take from the weak, but Mash says he is wrong because there will always be bad people, no matter what their social standing is. Since he won their fight, Mash asks for Lemon's location, and Abel agrees to let all the students go. Mash thinks that since he was doing everything for the sake of his mother, he isn't such a bad guy. Abel releases his spell, revealing Lemon, and Mash catches her. Finn regains consciousness, and the three are glad to be reunited. They all celebrate, and Finn and Lemon call Mash a hero. Finn is in tears thanking Mash, and Lemon apologizes for getting him involved, and she thanks him for saving her. Barrett comes crawling over as well, saying he also helped, and they continue to celebrate together. Abel can't believe he lost to such buffoons, and Finn wonders what happened to Lance. We see Lance in the dungeon, and he runs into Rain. Lance suddenly blocks his attack, and Rain is surprised he could counter his magic. His spider companion reveals his power is through the roof, and we learn that it's not actually Lance, but one of Innocent Zero's associates. The man wonders how Rain saw through his disguise, but Rain is just attacking first and asking questions later, saying that it's faster that way. Rain wonders what Innocent Zero wants from the school. The man reveals they are searching for something. Abel was meant to help them look, but he turned out to be no help, so he is off to kill Abel since they no longer need him. Rain tries to go after him, but he gets stopped by a giant knife. The man goes on ahead, and we see Rain is confronted by another opponent, but he worries for Mash and his friends, because the man heading towards them has the power on the level of a divine visionary. We see Burnedead and Brad wondering how Mash is going at the academy, hoping he hasn't been exposed for having no magic. Burnedead wonders why Brad doesn't need to work, but he says he is there to get some screen time. Mash and his friends continue to celebrate, and Abel wonders how long they are going to keep fooling around for. Mash excuses himself, saying he needs to go to the bathroom, and his friends are just glad everything is over. We see the other students who were puppets have all been turned back to normal, but the criminal suddenly arrives. They wonder who he is, but the man just blows them away. Barrett thinks about fighting him, but he instantly can sense how strong he is. The man approaches Abel, and we learn that his name is Cell. He sees that Abel lost against someone, and he calls Abel pathetic for not being able to reach the top at the school. Cell thanks him for his intel about the headmaster, but he suddenly controls Abel's hands, and Abel starts choking himself. Cell says he couldn't find the one they were looking for, so he is no longer needed. Abel is about to die, but Mash suddenly returns with a plate of cream puffs, ready to continue their celebration. His friends tell him it's not the time for that, and a fly suddenly lands on his nose. It tickles his nose, causing Mash to sneeze, and he throws the cream puffs at Cell. His friends wonder if it was just a coincidence, and Abel manages to get free. Mash asks for his cream puffs back, and his friends can't believe that's all he is thinking about. Cell throws the cream puffs to the ground, which shocks Mash, and Cell suddenly feels his head ache, as he wonders if Mash is the one he has been looking for. Cell decides to finish what he started, as he lifts Abel up into the air. He prepares to finish him off, and Mash tries to save him, but Razor suddenly appears to protect Abel. Mash rushes over, and Razor apologizes, saying he won't be able to have a cream puff with him. Mash gives him back his magic handkerchief, and Cell is surprised his attack wasn't fatal. He realizes that just before he cast his spell, Mash threw a rock at him which altered his spell's trajectory. Mash stands up to him, and he smashes the ground, kicking one of the rocks at Cell. Everyone is surprised, because Cell is able to catch the rock, and he starts to lick it, but Mash just finds him weird for licking a rock. Cell tells him Razor only has 30 minutes before he is beyond help, so he wonders what Mash will be able to do. He starts attacking with his magic, which Mash smashes with his fists. Cell wonders if he is all talk, combining his magic into a stronger attack, and Mash gets hit. Abel thinks Mash can't win, because there is too much of a difference between them. He thinks back to how his mother would tell him that it was only by chance that they were privileged, and he thinks Cell is just superior to them, so he thinks they have no chance. Cell continues to launch his attacks, but Mash keeps on blocking the attacks. Abel thinks Razor was a fool for saving him, but Mash says Razor was happy. He says Razor was always alone, but Abel was able to give him a reason to keep living, and he was happy to be needed. Mash says he would feel the same way, imagining himself in Razor's situation. Abel remembers that his mother would also tell him to put himself in another's position, so that he can become kinder to others. Mash keeps on fighting, and we see how Razor was feared his entire life. He was always alone, wishing that he was never born, but when he met Abel who accepted him, he was finally able to find a reason to live. He tells Abel to get away while he still can, and Abel thinks he is noble, just like his mother. Mash is stuck defending, and Cell wonders if that is all he can do. Abel can see Mash has no chance to close in on Cell, and Cell starts to get bored, so he attacks with even bigger projectiles. Things are looking bad for Mash, but Abel's doll suddenly protects him. Abel sends his doll to attack, but Cell easily crushes it with his magic. He tells Abel he doesn't stand a chance, but one of the heads suddenly move, revealing Mash was hiding inside, and Mash smashes Cell in the face. Cell is protected by an armor, but he is surprised Mash was able to damage it. He wonders what kind of magic Mash is using, but he says it doesn't matter, as he takes out a mirror. Barrett recognizes it as the Spellflexion Mirror, a magic item that can reflect any kind of magic, so it's the most feared item among magic users. Barrett warns Mash, and Cell tells him to do his worst, saying he will be crushed by his own magic, but Mash smashes right through it. His friends become shocked, realizing Mash's power isn't magical, and they remember his past feats, and they think he is something out of a fairy tale. Cell is unfazed by Mash's attack, but he suddenly notices a mark forming on his hand, so he confirms Mash is really the one they are looking for. The room suddenly shatters, and two giant hands appear. Cell claims he has an urgent errand to run, but tells Mash he will see him again real soon. Cell disappears, and Mash is glad it's over. Abel heads to the infirmary with Razor, and Razor hopes to have cream puffs with Mash the next time they meet. Abel offers Mash his thanks, saying he will return the favor one day. Mash's friends join him, and they are still shocked he has no magic. They worry he will get into trouble if people found out, and Mash starts to get scared, claiming he can totally use magic. His friends decide they will help protect his secret, but one of the other students wakes up, saying he heard everything. He thinks it's ridiculous someone with no magic is at the school, so he plans to tell everyone about Mash. Mash realizes his time has finally come, and his friends wonder what he is going to do. But Mash decides it's the perfect time to have a cream puff. But that's how this series ends for now. Look forward to a new season in 2024. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like